Hey guys.
Hey everybody.
Welcome to another Travel Therapy Mentor Sunday live video. Tonight we're going to be talking about the travel therapy market, an update on how the market has changed over the last couple months with COVID. We made some videos in the very beginning of all this about the market and how things were changing, and now we just wanted to update everyone. I know there's a lot of people waiting on travel jobs to pop up, and so hopefully we can give you guys some insight on that. Whitney's going to introduce us, and then we'll jump into the topic.
All right. Hi everybody. Thank y'all for joining us tonight. My name is Whitney Aiken.
And I'm Jared Kazaza.
And we are both traveling physical therapists. Many of you guys may have watched our videos in the past. We try to do a video every week. We generally do them on Facebook Live on our Facebook page. And as we mentioned last week, we're going to actually start sharing our videos on our YouTube channel. And at some point, we'll probably start sharing the audio to a podcast for those that might be interested in listening to just the audio version of our videos. So stay tuned for that. But Jared is going to share our video live while we are live tonight on Facebook. He's going to share it in a few groups so that more people can join on with us live. If you are watching us live tonight, we'd love if you'd leave us a comment and tell us who you are. I know that we have a lot of current travelers that watch our videos, a lot of people that are thinking about getting into traveling, a lot of students that are considering traveling. So we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Just let us know what your situation is and where you're at in this whole process, because we have a variety of viewers, which is awesome. So thank you again to those that have tuned in live. I see that Paul is on. Hi, Paul. Hey, Veronica. Glad you made it for the live version this time. Hi, Naya. Thank you guys for joining us. So it's kind of a crazy time right now, you know. I just can't believe it's already the end of May. I don't know if you guys agree with my sentiment that I feel like May and April really flew by, whereas March, when we were all first learning about COVID-19 and you know, it kind of really had its big impact in March. March just seemed to be the slowest month ever. It lasted 100 years, and then the last few months have just been a blur. So it's been kind of crazy. The travel therapy job market has been less than ideal, I think we could all say. So, you know, we didn't want to beat a dead horse and kind of talk about the same thing over and over again the last couple weeks, but we figured it was time that we sort of gave a thorough update. As always, I gathered information for our video tonight from a variety of sources. We have a lot of recruiters that we know, a lot of managers and upper level people at staffing company owners that we talked to. Also talked to a lot of travelers and kind of what they've been seeing with the job market. So we kind of compiled all that information to bring you guys the latest update and let you know what the outlook is like for travel therapy, and just kind of some speculation and some recommendations tonight. So we'll kind of dive into that. But again, if you are watching live, we'd love if you'd say hello in the comments and just let us know who you are. Are you a traveler? Are you a student? Are you somebody who's kind of in limbo? We'd love to hear about your situation. Hi, Hannah. Hannah says she's a current travel PT couple, so her and her significant other who are in Amarillo, Texas. Hey, Annie. I know Annie's a current SLP. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, and let us know if you have any questions as we go through on pretty much anything travel related. We'll wait to the end to answer those, but drop them in the comments and we'll answer them at the end.
Yeah. Hi, Cody. Thank you for joining, and thank you for those of you that are giving us thumbs up. We do appreciate it.
So overall, the market is still pretty tough right now. For the last 2 months, it's been fairly consistent. And obviously that has to do with outpatient clinics, and most of them being closed or significantly lower caseloads all across the country. Skilled nursing, still pretty decent demand, but those jobs are pretty full. Home health, about the same demand. And acute care, there's less demand because there's not elective surgeries. So the market is still pretty low. But the good news is things are starting to pick up a little bit.
Yeah, a very small amount. So for just a little bit of context, if you happen to be watching this later, obviously today is May the 24th, 2020. So it's been a little over 2 months since all this stuff happened. So for 2 months now, we've just kind of seen travel therapy sort of flatline. Like around March is when we really started to see things go downhill. We saw a lot of travel therapy contracts canceled. We saw that there were not new contracts popping up. Like the number of open jobs was really poor, way down. We're going to give you some updated numbers and stats for this week.
Yeah, and to be honest, when COVID happened, it was already a rough job market. It was the beginning of the year, which is always slower. PDPM and PDGM had just gone into effect, which had slowed everything down with the travel market. So this was just kind of icing on the cake in terms of a plummeting job market. So
Yeah.
it has been tough.
So it's been a really bad time. We've seen a ton of people who were current travel therapists that lost their contracts back in March not be able to find a new contract. And that's not everybody. We do know some travel therapists that are still working, that got lucky, that were able to extend a contract, maybe go back to a place where they had previously been working. I know Armand, who's watching our video tonight, said he went back to a place he'd been working before. So there are a few people that, maintained their job. Some people maintained their position, but their hours were dropped. There were a lot of contracts where they weren't necessarily needing you for as many hours. So a lot of people their guaranteed hours weren't honored, and that's still happening. So those few contracts that are coming along lately, we've still been seeing a lot of them are not guaranteeing hours. That's something you just have to accept right now, unfortunately, for a lot of the travel therapy contracts that are out there.
And for the most part here, we're talking about PT, OT, PTA, and CODAs. The job market for SLPs has actually not really been affected much, and if anything, it's probably better than it was last year at this time. So they have really fared pretty well throughout all this, especially in the skilled nursing and school settings. There's quite a few jobs, and they're paying very well. But for the other disciplines, things have really declined.
Yeah, so it's been a really crazy time. I mean, just 2 months of entire states more or less being on lockdown, which has affected us all in one way or another personally. It's affected a lot of therapists, both travel therapists and permanent therapists, who have been faced with a lot of perm therapists got furloughed or laid off from their jobs. A lot of travel therapists were not able to resume a new contract. So many people actually applied for unemployment. That's been a big thing we've been getting questions about, hey, do I qualify for unemployment if I'm a travel therapist? And the answer usually is yes. It can be a little trickier when you're going to fill out your unemployment paperwork, from what we understand, but there are a lot of travel therapists out there just sitting and playing the waiting game and sitting on unemployment. So I know that everybody has anxiously been waiting, when's it going to start to pick back up? Hopefully May, hopefully June. There's been a lot of speculation, so we want to bring you what we heard from all the people in management and what they're seeing.
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, the jobs are starting to trend upward, meaning that there are more job orders coming in each week. The issue is that there are so many people still looking for jobs. Obviously, most of you guys are travelers or planning to be travelers looking for jobs. So all these people looking for contracts, just because more jobs are coming, they're filling very quickly still. And so that means at any given time, the number of available jobs open is remaining about the same. It might be going up or down a little bit, but it's staying pretty constant because the jobs open, and as soon as they open, they get a ton of submissions and then they close.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because we honestly thought that we would start to see and hear more positive news sooner, but the news has been the same week after week. We ask every week, we talk to our recruiters every week, and they're basically saying a few of the companies I spoke with this week said everything was exactly the same. A couple of them said they did see an increase in orders, but just like Jared said, even though they had a slight increase in orders, they also had an increase in applicants, which we're going to talk about why that is. And so the jobs were just more or less about the same, and they were getting filled instantly, within hours. There was no waiting around. The job orders were coming open, applicants, maybe 20, 30, 40 submissions to the same job, and then whoever they happened to call, the first 1 to 3 people, one of them was snatching the job up right away.
Yeah, so there are a ton of people, new grads and everything, that are looking to travel right now. A lot of you guys that are watching this have reached out to us. In this last few weeks, we have gotten more requests for recruiters and people looking at the open jobs that we have on our list we've probably gotten more than we've ever gotten before in the last few weeks. So there are a ton of people being sent to jobs, being sent recruiters. So the recruiters are looking for work constantly, and they're trying to get people in these open positions, but they're filling so quickly that it's hard to even get submitted for the job sometimes.
Yeah, so the reason why there's been this big flood in applicants is like we talked about, obviously the current pool of travel therapists that at any given time is just looking for a job. And there were so many that were let go around the same time, it left more travel therapists than normal looking for jobs at the same time. Then on top of that, with May comes new graduates. So there's a ton of new graduates in pretty much every discipline across the board, especially I know for us, we hear from a lot of PTs, DPTs that just graduated. So we've got new graduates hopping into the job applicant pool. And then on top of that, we've got perm therapists that maybe got laid off from their jobs and thought, maybe travel could be a good option for me because I don't have my permanent job anymore. Maybe I'll see what the travel therapy job market's doing. So all of a sudden, we got a ton of applicants, and it's just craziness for the recruiters right now. They have more leads is what they call them. You know, when we reach out to them, they call it a lead. More leads than they can handle, and not enough jobs to put them in.
Yeah,
so it's been kind of crazy.
And that is very true with the permanent therapists. Some of them were laid off. Maybe they had a month of savings or something. They were trying to wait it out, and then nothing's happened, and there's nothing hiring in their area. And so those people are also going into the travel market looking for jobs right now.
Yeah. So in terms of numbers, PT and OT have continued to just be kind of low. The lowest that we've really ever seen it in the past, I would say 10 years. Like all of our recruiters, we've only been in the travel therapy world for about 5. But all of our recruiters that have been in the business for a long time said this is the worst it's been in a decade. So normally at like, say this time last year, PTs, OTs, and SLPs would have 300 plus available jobs at any given time. And as we know in the travel therapy world, these jobs turn over every week. But still, if they filled 100 last week, they would get 100 more this week. So it'd be right back up there at that 300 mark. Well, lately the PT, OT has been anywhere between like the lower end maybe 10 open jobs to the upper end maybe 40 open jobs for PT and OT.
Yeah, so that's quite a difference compared to normal. And in reality, like we mentioned earlier, the beginning of the year wasn't even that great of a travel market. There was probably around 100 open jobs for PTs and even less for OTs back then. So this all has just really decreased that even further. So last year at this time, at least 10 times as many jobs open as there are right now.
That's crazy. So yeah, there's one of the companies, like one of the smaller companies was telling me at any given time right now for PT and OT, it could be between 5 and 20 jobs. One of the bigger staffing agencies was saying more on like the 20 to 40 jobs, but still very low. SLP, they were saying, is still fairly strong, still 200 and 300 plus jobs. And for SLPs, a lot of those jobs are in the school setting for the fall. A lot of SLPs like to work in schools, and then a lot of SLP jobs in SNF. So if you're an SLP that's watching this right now and you're looking for a school or a SNF, you're still in really good shape. Go out there, definitely travel, definitely reach out to us if you're an SLP who's thinking about traveling. It's actually a really good time for you to travel right now.
Really good time for pay as well. You can negotiate for higher pay. Companies are willing to pay more because there's very limited competition for these jobs.
But it's just unfortunately not the case for us PTs and our friends in OT. It's just really rough right now, and it's even worse for assistants. We've mentioned time and time again that the physical therapist and occupational therapist assistant market hasn't been that great for, I'd say, the past 6, 9, even 12 months. It wasn't super strong, and lately it's just been flatlined, super dead. I would say from the recruiters, they've been saying at any given time there's either 0 up to maybe 4 or 5 assistant jobs in the entire country.
Yeah, and probably 4 or 5 weeks ago we made a video about kind of like an update like this, and we were talking about how we were optimistic that there might be some crisis pay jobs. That ended up not happening. There was maybe 3 or 4 openings for crisis pay PTs, OTs, and then even those that went. So, I mean, there were 3 or 4 different openings, and they were asking for multiple people. But then the ones that went either didn't have much to do at all, or they ended early, and now there is almost none of that. So, and we don't anticipate that being a thing now. I mean, the measures that have been taken have been helping to limit the spread. So there's not these huge outbreaks right now, and hopefully there won't be. So I don't think there'll be crisis rates. I don't think there's going to be a lot of crisis jobs, and there will be just gradual upticks in the market as states start to open, but it's still going to be a while before we get anywhere back to a normal number of jobs.
Yeah, and the thing about those crisis jobs is, like, that's a good thing, right? Like, I mean, I think back when this whole thing started, there were all these memes going around, like, in 2 or 3 months, if you guys see that there's not a huge increase in cases, don't say this was a waste for us to do. Say what we did worked. And I hope that that's the case. I mean, I know a lot of people want to politicize this right now and go back and forth about it, but hopefully it's a good thing that there weren't a surge of cases like they thought. They opened up a lot of these like pop-up hospitals in different cities, different states throughout the country, and they were going to be these COVID units, and they were going to need hundreds of nurses and hundreds of respiratory therapists and, you know, dozens of therapists. And a few of those got fully staffed, and then no patients showed up. And it was a good thing. You know, it's a good thing that the numbers weren't what they predicted, but it was kind of a staffing nightmare.
Yeah, and not only were therapists being laid off from those COVID contracts, but also respiratory and nursing. They were seeing contracts at like $9,000 a week, insane things. But then they were getting there, and there was no work to do, and they were sending those people back home.
Yeah.
So this is really not just a therapy thing. This is across the board. Jobs are less for nurses right now, and every specialty pretty much except for ICU, their market's down. So this is a travel healthcare, it's a widespread thing.
It's a mess because, yeah, like even nurses and respiratory therapists and other people that were in demand, if they don't work in the ER or ICU, you know, the hospitals cleared out the other units and stuff to try to make room for ICU. And then the trickle down effect, anybody who works in outpatient or other post-operative type care settings, that we don't have any patients. So there's been a lot of disciplines that have been affected by this, layoffs for doctors and nurses and physician's assistants, and they don't have enough hours. And so it's been a crazy thing, but I know that, you know, hopefully our government and everything's trying to handle it as best they can. In terms of what's kind of happening in the world right now, as you guys know, here at the end of May, they've started to try to open up in phases. So what we're entering right now is like the phases where they're trying to open up each state slowly and gradually. So this is where we've kind of all just been sitting and playing the waiting game, because all the people who are in the staffing world and the healthcare world, they're saying, well, as soon as we can go back to a little bit of normalcy, as soon as hospitals are back operating normal, you know, surgeries, elective surgeries are able to resume normal, then it's going to have this trickle down effect. We're just kind of all sitting, waiting on go until that happens. So we're hoping now that the phases are starting, each state is phasing in the opening up process, that's when we're going to start seeing an increase in jobs.
Yeah, so one thing we are optimistic about is with everything that's happened, there's a lot of pent-up demand. So for elective surgeries and even some more needed surgeries that are not necessarily elective that have been put off, there's a lot of pent-up demand for that. And so what we've heard from some of like the recruiters and their higher-ups is that they're hearing from some hospital systems that they might be doing surgeries 24 hours a day once this gets back, selective hospitals at least, where they have a ton of patients to get in for surgeries. They might be doing 24-hour-a-day surgeries, which would mean that they need more nurses there, more physicians there, more therapists there. And then once all those surgeries need rehab, we'll have a lot higher demand for PTs, OTs, and all settings.
Yeah, and again, that's still some speculation. Those are some conversations that are happening. So, you know, I don't know if you want to run to your hospital system and say, is that true? You guys are going to start doing 24-hour surgeries? I don't know. That's something that we heard through the grapevine, but you know how that goes. So it's something
but even if
we
not,
could
I
see.
mean, as soon as surgeries start to pick back up, there's going to be a lot of demand for people that needed surgeries during this whole time. All these people that are sitting at home thinking about their aches and pains, you know, they're going to be ready to get their rotator cuff repairs and meniscus repairs and those kind of things.
Yeah, so we're going to definitely see, you know, whenever we're kind of allowed, the states are allowed to open up more, we're going to see an uptick. It's just sort of a matter of when. So in talking to all of our recruiters, the higher up people in the staffing companies, they were really hoping for May, June, but now we're kind of like, well, even in a couple states like our state of Virginia, they have started elective surgeries back, but we still haven't seen locally a big increase. For example, we spoke with a local company about maybe doing PRN while we were home for a little while, and that company told us that they hadn't really seen any increase in patient caseload, so they were still having trouble staffing their full-time perm staff. And I have a lot of friends in other places that are full-time perm therapists locally, and they're not really getting their full hours yet either, so we kind of haven't seen it yet. But I would say that a lot of the staffing companies are kind of speculating it could be closer to like July, August at this point that we should really get our hopes up for.
Yeah, and as things open up and things evolve, and who knows, infection rates might increase or spike, and you might see reinforcement of some of the lockdowns and things like that. It's so hard to say what will happen, but yeah, likely we'll see a gradual uptick, and then hopefully things will be getting somewhere back to normal by the end of the summer, July, August timeframe.
Yeah. And again, it's just a lot of speculation on the staffing companies' parts because there's so many things that have to fall in place for it to happen. And then, you know, we've all heard the rumors, what if we open back up, and what if cases increase in the fall, and what if it's worse? And then we'll be, like Jared said, we have to go back into lockdown. We don't know, but we do hope that when things are open and able to normalize a little bit more, we'll see more staffing needs for us therapists come July, August. What we have been hearing, just based on what the staffing companies are seeing, is it's obviously to them, they're saying it's pretty obvious it's going to come back quicker for experienced therapists. So when the jobs start to open up more and there's this whole pool of applicants waiting to apply for jobs, they're still going to favor those experienced applicants.
Yeah, and you have to think about it from their perspective. If they have 40 candidates, they're going to choose off the top. They're going to pick the best ones available. They're not going to be choosing people that don't have any experience in that setting if they have someone that has 10 years of experience in that setting and has their OCS and their CSCS and other certifications that might be valuable.
Yeah, so what that means for you guys that are watching is if you're an experienced traveler or an experienced therapist that's trying to go from perm into travel, you can hopefully have a good outlook around July, maybe even the end of June. If you're a new grad watching this thinking, what about me for the travel therapy world, it's more than likely probably going to be like August, September, more in the fall. And again, we don't know for sure, but I would say right now, we just wrote an article the other day that we published. Right now is not a great time for new grads trying to get into this travel market.
Yeah. Real quick, anybody in here, if you guys are getting value from this video, please like it, comment below, let us know where you're at in the world. Hey, Elizabeth, Austin, Nikki, John, Kaylee, Nick, thank you guys for joining. And another cool thing, tomorrow is Whitney's birthday. She's turning 30, so that's exciting.
Yeah, thanks for the
This
shout
has been
out
her
on that.
entire birthday week. We've spent the weekend celebrating that.
Yeah, it's been pretty fun. It's been an interesting birthday week or weekend or whatever. I know that a lot of you guys, anybody who's had March and April and May birthdays can relate with me that it's not normal times. We did get out in the world a little bit this weekend, more than we had been. Are we supposed to? I don't know, but we did a little bit of stuff, so we'll see. But hopefully my birthday will still be all right, even though we're kind of supposed to be in lockdown still.
A lot of the outdoor activities right now are packed. We went hiking this weekend and the whole trail was packed, the parking lot was packed. So trying to stay away from people as much as possible, but it's difficult when everything outdoors is full right now.
Yeah. So kind of, just to sort of wrap this up, like we said, it might, thanks Ariel, yeah, I'll be 30, so no more 20s for me. So, like we said, unfortunately, it's really not a great time for new grads to be trying to jump into the travel therapy market. Just the odds are stacked against you. I know 2020 is a crappy year for you guys to graduate regardless. Like everybody's had Zoom graduations and things ripped right out from underneath you. Maybe you can't take boards on time like you were supposed to. It's been a crazy time. Now, I don't know your particular situation if you're a new grad and watching this, but I know in talking to some of our recruiters who are working closely with some new grads, some of them said that some of the new grads are willing to just sit around and wait and maybe just not start working until the fall. Like maybe if you're taking July boards anyway, and then it's practically August, maybe you can afford to wait until August, September to even start your first job, in which case maybe the job market will be picked back up by then.
Yeah.
But if you were one of the fortunate ones to take April, May-ish boards and get them rescheduled earlier, if you have the opportunity to pick up a PRN or a permanent job right away and go ahead and get some experience locally, we would highly recommend not waiting around for the travel therapy market to pick back up right now.
Yeah.
Obviously if you can work a couple months and then see what it's like in the fall, winter, and then maybe try travel after that, but we wouldn't recommend just sitting around waiting, not getting any experience if you have job opportunities at your fingertips.
Yeah, there's always time in the future to jump into travel therapy when things pick up. Right now, you don't want to be sitting around not having any experience. So if you can get some experience, that will make you stand out a little bit versus other new grads when the jobs do pick up. So yeah, if you can find PRN or a full-time position temporarily, and then think about travel maybe in the end of the summer or beginning of the fall, sometime in that time frame, that would be a lot better.
Yeah. So if you are a new grad and you're watching this and you have not read the article that we just put out earlier this week, we recommend you go on our traveltherapymentor.com website and check out that article. It just kind of gives an overview of our recommendation and why we don't think right now is the best time for new grads. But you have to make the decision for yourself. I mean, I know there's going to be some new grads that are like, you know what, I'm going to try it anyway, and more power to you. We traveled right away as new grads. We've always been proponents that if you feel that it's right for you, for the right type of person, right type of personality, it can be great for new grads. Obviously, the job market is really poor right now, but it might work out for some people. You might just so happen to have a state license in a state where there are a lot of jobs. and you can make travel work right now as a new grad. So if you can make it work, great. But in general, what we recommend is you go ahead and get your application filled out with a few travel therapy companies. So you'll have that option, but also still be looking at perm and PRN job options. And just sort of when the time comes, if a PRN or a perm job is presented to you and you have the opportunity to take it, take it. But if it doesn't, if you're not finding any good PRN or perm job options either, and you happen to find a travel job that works, then take that.
Yeah, and another good thing to do right now is to try to work on some other state licenses. The more licenses you have, the more options you have in terms of jobs when they do pop up. Almost no job right now, well, pretty much zero jobs right now, are going to wait on you to get a state license because they already have a ton of applicants that have it. So if you can have that state license and get submitted quickly, you can have a chance of getting one of those travel jobs when they pop up. So working on that right now and expanding your options as much as possible is a very smart idea.
Yeah. And this goes, so that was kind of some recommendations for new grads, but then in terms of recommendations for our current travel therapists, our experienced therapists, some of the same recommendations. We would encourage you to keep your options open right now. Consider travel jobs if you have like a good connection with a PRN job or a perm job back home, and that is an option you want to consider. It's not a bad option. We've definitely talked to a couple of travel therapists that are thinking about taking a more permanent position for the next several months just until things improve. Not a bad option. But if you want to make yourself more marketable, if you for sure want to stay with travel therapy, if you can try to work on a couple extra state licenses right now, do that. I know there are some barriers right now with getting state licenses because you may not be able to take like a jurisprudence exam if they require it to be taken in person or something along those lines. But if you could go ahead and get the ball rolling with your application, that will make you more marketable as a travel therapist. And then as always, we always recommend you have your application filled out with 3 to 4 recruiters at different travel therapy companies to have more job options.
Yep. One other thing you can do is, we mentioned our job list. On our website, we have a hot jobs list where we update that on Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the afternoon. So if you check usually after about 2 or 3 o'clock on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, all those jobs should be up to date. And we have gotten some people placed through that list. So we'll put jobs on there that are open and get people submitted as quickly as we can, and that is a way that you can find jobs right now as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of times those jobs are turning over extremely quickly, the way that most travel jobs are right now. But it doesn't hurt to throw your name in the hat for some jobs. Try to apply for whatever you can right now. Also on our website or on this video, if you'd like, if you want to reach out to us for recommendations for recruiters, on our website we have a link called Recruiter Recommendations where we can help connect you with some of our favorite recruiters if you want to expand your job options. So say you're a current traveler, you're somebody getting into travel therapy and you've only got 1 or 2 recruiters. We highly, highly recommend you pick up a 3rd and a 4th one, because the more to an extent, much beyond 4 or 5, it doesn't help you that much. But the more recruiters that you have looking for jobs for you, the more likely you're going to find a job, because they don't always have the same jobs.
Very true. Yeah, some are exclusive jobs, some specialize in certain areas, those kind of things. So you might be missing jobs if you're only working with one company, and that's why it's always important to work with 3 right now, probably 3 or 4.
Yeah. So more recruiters looking for jobs for you, the more state licenses you have, and also being less picky. So right now is unfortunately just not a good time for you to be picky. You need to think about expanding to working in different areas. Maybe you don't normally like to work in rural areas, but you might have to consider it. Maybe you don't normally like to work in SNF or a certain setting, but you need to think about expanding and being more flexible.
If possible, obviously. If you're not comfortable in that setting, don't take a job in that setting. But if it's something that you think that you have it's not your preferred setting, but you wouldn't mind working there or you want to give it a shot, then that's a great thing. Don't go into a setting you're not comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, like for us, we always prefer to work in outpatient, but if we were really desperate to find a job right now, we would definitely have to consider working in a SNF or a different setting, because it's very hard to come by outpatient jobs right now the way the job market is. So definitely being more flexible right now if possible. We've been hearing from some of the recruiters that there's a lot of therapists that are still not willing to be flexible. They're still being kind of picky and they're asking for this, this, and this. And when a job is kind of presented to them, they're still wanting to, ask a lot of questions and try to push a little bit on the pay. Their recommendation was right now, it's best to just say yes to submissions. And what it means by submission is yes to them submitting your application. So if your recruiter comes along and says, hey, this job popped up, are you interested? Right now, we would recommend just say yes. Just say, yep, submit me. Then if you have the opportunity to get the interview, that's when you can sort of ask, okay, what about this? What about this? And find out if it's the right job for you. But if you ask a lot of those questions on the front end, you might get completely passed over and miss the interview opportunity, period.
Yeah, and just because you're being submitted does not mean that you're agreeing to take the job no matter what. You still have the option to turn it down later. But yeah, the thing is, these jobs are being submitted to so quickly that sometimes interviews are happening within an hour. So if you ask a lot of questions and your recruiter takes a little while to get back to you, then you might not be even in line at all for that job.
Yeah, it's really crazy right now. Things are just flying. There are so many applicants right now that it's just flying. So we definitely recommend just speed to application is the biggest thing right now. Be in contact with your recruiters. Agree to text messaging, because sometimes that's the quickest way. They can just shoot you a text, say, hey, here's what I know about the job. Can I just submit you right now, right away? And then over the next 48 hours, we'll try to find out more about the job, see if it's right for you and all that stuff, and we can maybe talk about the pay. But as we mentioned in some of our recent videos and articles, pay is a little bit lower right now just because of supply and demand.
Yeah, and for the people that are being picky, it's not that we're trying to pick on you guys. We understand that. We are also very picky about the assignments we accept. It's just that right now, if you are picky, then you're probably not going to get jobs at all. So if that's, if getting the right job is your main priority, then that is great. Continue to be picky. But if you just need a job, then this is definitely not the time to be really picky.
Yeah, it's just you have to weigh your options. Like if you can afford to take a couple weeks or a couple months off, if you have a really good savings nest egg, you have a good situation at home, you're okay, then yeah, continue to wait it out, continue to be picky. But if you are hurting for money, if you're really desperate to get a job, unfortunately you can't be picky the way the market is right now.
Very true.
The last thing we just want to mention is if you are sitting around twiddling your thumbs, if you're sitting there on unemployment, you can't find a job, right now is a way to try to market yourself, make yourself stand out more. Maybe you could be doing CEU courses, working on some self-study. Right now, just some way to say, okay, I've been working on myself, I've been working on my skills and my knowledge while I was unable to work. So CEUs are a good idea right now.
Yeah, I can't think of a better time to be studying for like a certification exam, like an OCS or CSCS, those kind of certification exams that will make you stand out. This is a wonderful time to study for that and get ready to take that once things start to pick back up, and then you'll have an additional thing in your resume to make you stand out.
Yeah, or just get ahead on your CEUs that you're required to have every year, so you're not waiting towards the end of the year to get them done. If you guys have watched before, we do have a partnership with MedBridge. That's where we do a lot of our CEUs as travel therapists, because you can do them online. Obviously right now, in-person CEU courses are not possible for most of us because of the lockdowns and the quarantine. So MedBridge is super easy to do at home on your own time. It's about $200 for PT and OT for the whole year subscription if you use our promo code. For SLPs, it's even cheaper. I think it's either $95 or $99 for the whole year. So if you guys want to sign up for MedBridge to get some CEUs at home, our discount code is Fifth Wheel PT. So it's kind of like our blog. It's FIFTHWHEELPT. And that'll give you guys the discounted rate.
All one word.
Yeah. So those are kind of our general recommendations for what is happening right now. We want to read through some of the questions. If you're watching live with us, if you have questions, please leave it in the comments and we will answer your question. We'll start from the most recent question and work our way back. But yeah, so that's just kind of an overview of what has been going on. I know it's not great news. It hasn't quite picked up like we wanted to see it pick up yet, but we're really hoping, hopefully the end of June, maybe into July, we'll start seeing better things with the job market.
Yeah, it's not as awful as we anticipated it could have been, but it's definitely not as good as we hoped it would be.
Yeah, so sorry for the doom and gloom, but we just like to bring you guys kind of the general outlook and what we're hearing, and as soon as there is good news, we will deliver it.
Yeah.
But right now things are still kind of in a lull, unfortunately. All right, so in the comments, I got lots of happy birthdays. Thank you guys, I appreciate it. Hopefully Jared will make my birthday fun tomorrow and I'll get to see my family too. Hey Nick. Nick says, I took a sniff job. I was thinking I'd hate my life, but so far it's been pretty good. I live in Destin, which I think is in Florida. I have great coworkers. Sometimes something that seems bad could actually turn out to be good. That's a really good outlook, Nick.
Yeah, there are some good sniffs out there, and I would imagine right now with everything going on, maybe some of the productivity things are relaxed, and maybe, even though the environment itself with, a virus going around is probably not a great environment to be in, hopefully some of the managerial pressure has been decreased.
We hope. Yeah, let us know, Nick. Are they still having a lot of demands for productivity? It's kind of a crazy time, but yeah, sniff's not so bad all the time.
Nick said yes in Florida, Redneck Riviera.
Okay, so let's see. Matt says, have you applied for unemployment? Sorry if this has been asked before. So I have not applied for unemployment. Jared did.
I applied for unemployment in Virginia, our home state. But I'm in a kind of a different situation. The last time I worked as a traveler was almost a year ago. So this was W-2 income from a different source that I got approved for unemployment. So I know about the process in Virginia. I haven't done it as a traveler so much, but yeah.
Yeah, we don't know a ton about it. We have been getting a ton of questions, so we know what we've heard.
I do know that every state is very different.
We've heard from a lot of travelers, because there's a ton of travelers who maybe just got cut from a contract or whatever the case might be that applied. And we're approved, but it's a little complicated for sure. But we're certainly not experts on it. Jared kind of fumbled his way through it.
Yeah, and also got denied for it, so.
Yeah. Okay, Matt Villegas says, even before the quarantine with PDPM and PDGM, the therapy became less of a priority financially. Yeah, there were some pay cuts, I'm sure, across the board with everything happening with Medicare changes. So not a great time for us. Okay, Hannah, in regards to getting new state licensure, says she has been unable to get her fingerprinting done for the California licensure, which has been a barrier. So that's a huge bummer.
Yeah. I would imagine that's pretty tough right now.
It makes it really hard because a lot of these offices where you need to get all your stuff done to get your credentialing to get a license may not be operating at full capacity or allowing you to come in for things like fingerprints and jurisprudence exams. So it's a good thing that you already have the ball rolling, like getting your California license started, but there probably are going to be some holdups. Happy birthday, thank you guys, I really appreciate it. Armand says, oh, you are so young. Thank you. Still in my 20s for a couple more hours.
Yeah, a couple more hours.
But I don't feel that young because a lot of our followers are like in their early 20s. And I'm like, oh gosh, we're old now.
Yeah.
Ariel, thank you. Welcome to the 30 Club. She had a birthday in April. I hope you had a good birthday. Hi, Cody, travel PTA couple in Lubbock, Texas. And Cody, remind me, are you guys still working? Are you still getting hours? Allie says, good day from Australia. Are you in Australia? Are you stuck in Australia? Or are you working there?
I would love to be in Australia right now.
Yeah, but I wonder, traveling's not so feasible to Australia right now. Allie, let us know. Are you working there full time or did you get stuck there on vacation? Hey, Allison. Hey, Lindsay. Hi, Nikki. Thank you for joining. All right, let's see if we have any other questions.
Brian says Jared needs a haircut. That is very true. I do need a haircut. It's been a few months now.
The salons are open again, so we should send him in there, but he'll have to wear a mask. They'll have trouble getting around the ear part.
Yeah.
My mom got a perm the other day, and I was like, how did they do it with the mask? She said they did it with the mask on. I don't know. Armand says he's a PTA. He's going to be back on the road in a week. Congratulations. I'm glad you were able to get that job lined back up. Elizabeth says she's a current PT traveler. She's in New Orleans on an outpatient therapy.
Awesome.
Okay, so that's good to know that there's still an outpatient contract happening in the world.
Paul says current travel PT as of a few weeks ago. Congratulations. Where'd you find an assignment, Paul?
I know Paul had a little trouble. We had talked with Paul kind of back and forth about one job got canceled, I think, so I'm glad you were finally able to get something lined up. That's good news. So let's see if we have any more. Lauren says, hi, great to see you. Thank you, Lauren. I hope your job in North Carolina is still good to go. Yeah, so I think, let me see if we have any more questions. If anybody else is watching live, please let us know if you have a question.
Cody said, oh, big pressure. Yeah, about that birthday comment.
Mm-hmm. He's doing a good job. Okay. Nick, in regards to his skilled nursing contract, says it's easy to make productivity because all the patients are in their rooms.
Oh yeah, I guess you don't have to track people down, so that would help a lot for skilled nursing.
He says it's also a small facility. They gave him an 85% productivity, and the panhandle hasn't been hit as hard by the Rona. I guess that's his nickname for it. So that's good. I'm glad to hear that, Nick. Let's see. Jonathan says, unemployment, it's a little tricky depending on where you were working and which state you are in.
Nick says 30 shots for you tonight. I don't think Woody would make it past 3 shots.
I think I'm good on the shots, Nick. All right.
Cody said, I average 20 a week. Ariel joined me here and works PRN at a sister building to mine. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really good. And they're PTA pair, so I'm glad to see that was working out.
I was talking about the fingerprints.
Okay, so John, in regards to the fingerprinting, says, have you tried getting your cards sent and then going to a local police station? It's slower than the live scan, but yeah, the police stations are open. We had ours done, I think, at a police station like that.
Yeah, it was
for
like
Arizona.
It was like a sheriff's office or something.
Yeah, and so they're definitely open. I mean, they probably may not be the most willing to have you come in person, but I'm sure you could talk them into it. Let's see. Allie says, I'm visiting family in Australia. I'm normally a traveler in Texas. So, Allie, how's that been traveling all the way to Australia from the U.S.? I would be surprised that there were still international flights happening to Australia. Let's see here. Hannah says, we went to the police station and they said they aren't doing them at this time, but hopefully they will let us soon, or we might start looking outside of our county. Yeah, it's so tricky right now.
I would look within like an hour radius, see if there's anywhere else doing it.
So, I mean, Jared knows I am the person to call people and try to schmooze them to get what we need to happen. Quite a bit. I call people and I don't know, I tend to make things work. I mean, so hopefully if you maybe call around and just try to appeal to them, you know, explain your situation, beg a little, see if you get the right person on the phone, you could maybe make it happen. Who knows? I mean, I understand it's strict, but they could probably put a mask on you, put a mask on themselves, take your finger, stick it on the ink. It's not, I mean, you know, it's not that crazy. All right. Armand says, I think you guys are doing great and young. I'm old. I'm 45.
45's not old.
No. Thanks, Armand. Paul says he's at a skilled nursing facility in Shreveport, Louisiana. That's great. Oh my God, Nick, Nick, your comments are out of control. Nick says, if you think Jared's hair is wild, then you need to see this white boy. All right, these comments are getting out of hand. We'll read a few more and then we'll cut off for tonight.
Cody says, haha, no 20 hours a week sucks. We're still on track to have our wedding in Croatia, Mississippi in the next 5 months. Yeah, definitely not ideal, but at least you guys are working.
It's better than nothing.
I hope the wedding works out. I don't know what Croatia is like right now.
Yeah, I know. I talked to Cody about that wedding. I wish we could go to Croatia. Ali says, the only flight to Australia was for Australian citizens. I had to spend 2 weeks locked in a hotel for quarantine upon arrival.
Oh my gosh.
I was escorted by the police and the army.
That's insane.
And then Hannah says she will start begging in regards to her fingerprinting. I would highly recommend it. Do what you gotta do. Hopefully you can get that Cali license, because when jobs start to flow back, we know that California is normally a really great place for travel therapist jobs. So California is a really key license to try to have if you can get it. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for those that tuned in live. Thank you if you're tuning in later to watch our video or listen to our audio. We really appreciate you guys. If you are a therapist that's out there right now that can't find a job, hang in there. We feel for you. It's a really tricky time right now. We hope just in a matter of weeks to months, it'll pick back up.
Yep, and if you're listening on the replay, we do these videos every Sunday evening, usually at 9 o'clock, as long as there's nothing impeding that. So join us live and ask any questions you have.
Yep, so we appreciate it again. If you need any assistance getting set up with travel therapy recruiters, if you'd like to add to your list of 1 or 2 recruiters, please reach out to us. We'll get you connected with some good ones. Every recruiter has pretty much been saying, you know, it's not that they're at all not working or at all turning away people that want jobs. They are taking phone calls, they're taking applications, they're getting you apped in, which means get your resume filled out, get your skills checklist filled out, make sure your credentialing is up to date so that when the time comes, they will search for jobs and they will submit you when there are jobs available. So don't give up hope on travel therapy. It will come back. It's just going to be a matter of when, and hopefully sooner than later.
And sneak peek for next week, we already figured out which topic we were going to talk about for next week. We're going to be talking about if van life is feasible as a travel therapist. That's something that I think is definitely in vogue right now. We have a lot of people ask us that, so we're going to talk about if that's feasible, some of our recommendations, and so that will be next Sunday at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about RVing, but we specifically want to talk about a van next week because it's a little different. So
Definitely.
thank y'all so much for joining, and we hope you have a great night and stay safe.
Yep, take care. See you next week.
Bye.